Funny. Oh, there I am. Hi, everybody who's on the podcast on YouTube. Noah, come through. Come to YouTube, Noah, and I'll have you on as a guest. I'll send you a link. Let me know. Noah Hoffman on my Instagram. Trying to get him over here to YouTube. Today we're going to be going over what I learned in Tampa and how much transferable knowledge there is when you've learned how to buy properties through creative finance, and how you can actually do the very same thing or similar here through business. So it's really exciting. So if you guys are on Instagram, come on over to YouTube. The link is below, or just search my name on YouTube and you'll see that I'm on there live. There'll be a live chat. Come ask all your questions. I get a lot of people who say, I'm just getting started, or, hey, I have this. How do I figure out if I have a deal or not? So one of the things that Caroline and I were struggling with is people asking for our time. So we were like, let's do this podcast. This podcast will allow us to answer all these questions that people have. And we can answer them in a more public platform and answer as many questions as we possibly can, serve as many people as we possibly can. So if you're seeing me and you're on Caroline's page, or if you're seeing me and I'm on my page, I'm one Caroline short today. Unfortunately, she's under the weather after enjoying her time in Tampa. She jumped off a perfectly good plane. I did not jump off my plane. I took my plane to Florida. I took my plane back from Florida to Arizona. So welcome, everyone. I see everybody in the chat. We went and had a fantastic time at Abraham Gray and Carl Allen's event called Dealmaker.live. I think you can still go to their website. And what we learned is that we've been preparing for this the whole time we've been in sub 2. So that was pretty cool to see that when all the skills that are very transferable from what we are doing and learning in sub 2, you can do in buying businesses. And the only thing that is a major difference is that you have to underwrite it differently. So, which makes sense. In business, there's just like a whole lot more nuance. But when you buy businesses, your goal is to buy them cash flowing. So we're not buying distressed businesses. There's some strategic reasons why you would want to do that, but that's not necessarily what we're talking about. We're talking about buying businesses that are cash flowing. And then the actual sellers in distress. So you're talking about sellers who are ready to retire. Like, did you know 10,000 baby boomers are retiring every single day? And so a good chunk of them have businesses that need that people like us, entrepreneurs, to take them over, take care of their employees, take care of their legacy, take care of the brand they've created. A lot of times what we can add is a more modern twist. So people who've had businesses that are at least 5 years or more, they've, the statistic is crazy about how many businesses fail. So if you can get a business that's already cash flowing, why wouldn't you do that? Like, why would you start from scratch? So I'm going to end my broadcasting on Instagram. Everybody come on over to YouTube so you guys can answer or ask your questions live, and I can actually pay attention. So ask any questions. This is like a Q&A, a Q&A broadcast. So just ask whatever you have, and I'll continue to parlay some of what we've learned when we were in Tampa, because I was floored. I was like, wait a second. I know a lot of this. I know to build rapport, or how Carl says it because he's British. He says rapport. So that's my best British accent of how you say rapport. So while everybody's on there, who has questions? What do you guys have? Would love to answer any of the Q&A in the live chat. I got my eyes on it. If you have a deal you need to underwrite, if you're not sure what your next step is, this is your time to come on ask. Oh, wow. All of a sudden the comment showed up. So, hey, Sue. So Sue joined our brokerage. Super exciting. She was on our Zoom this week. We had a family tree Zoom with the Steve Trang. Steve Trang was giving some perspective during our call this week. So if you guys are thinking about joining an investor-friendly brokerage, definitely come check out Family Tree. Mine Vault unlocked. I don't know your name. Thank you, Ingrid. I wish I could have made it there. Tampa apparently created a lot of FOMO. We were taking a lot of pictures. We were enjoying everybody's time. Again, I was super amazed at how much of what we've been preparing or not preparing, I didn't know we were preparing for it, but how much we were learning in sub 2 was transferable into buying a business. So now I'm actively looking for a business, not one that is in distress, but that the seller is in distress. So sellers looking to retire but it's cash flowing. What I'm specifically looking for, though, are businesses that complement fix and flip efforts. So maybe a plumbing company, electrician company, a glass company, companies like that have complement what we're actually doing in real estate, or title companies. So professional services in that regard, maybe CPA, things like that really orient more to what we do in real estate. It says, Kirk asked the question, is there a platform for finding businesses that are for sale? Yes. So bizbuysell.com is a website, very much like in real estate, we have MLS. BizBuySell is a website that folks use to put their business up for sale. The caveat to that is that now you have a broker involved. So when you have a broker involved, you have to be prepared to compensate that broker for selling you that business. There's a few others, but that's the one that my memory can recall. Very much like real estate, what do you do when you're looking for opportunities? You go and find the data, right? Because with businesses, you'll probably be more apt to find them through Google searches. So you can actually go searching for businesses just using Google and start sending them letters that you're interested. Very much like real estate. You can't get a deal if you don't do what? Make offers. So you have to let people know you're interested. Otherwise, how are you actually going to buy a property if nobody knows you're looking to buy one? So I am looking at our comments. So please leverage the comments for now. Let's see, what else did I learn this weekend? First of all, I learned that Abraham Gray and Carl Allen can really put an event together. I don't know if you guys have been to other events, but every time you go to them, they seem like they're pounding you with sales pitches or other things to buy. And I didn't get that at all with this event. It was literally, they had a notebook for us every single day, and we were taking down notes hey, you need to understand this. It's important to build rapport with your seller. It's important for you to understand, to peel back the onion of why they're looking to sell. All the things you learn in real estate, honestly, again, 90% of it is all the things we do in real estate, trying to making sure that they're giving you all the numbers, and that you're understanding the reason why they're selling, all that good stuff, everything to get going, to get started, all the things that we've been doing in real estate. So it was interesting because you can go and buy a cash flowing business that's doing 30,000, 40,000. Abraham and Carl both say, don't go after businesses that aren't cash flowing at least 10,000 a month. And that's the bare minimum. So if that's the bare minimum, you could be looking for opportunities that have 20, 30, 40,000. And arguably, when you're looking at businesses, a strategy that you can take is buying them in a way where you're just owner investor. So let me clarify what owner investor means. If you're buying owner investor, it means you don't want to actually be in the business. You want to be working on the business. So making strategic relationships to, add more lead flow, checking to see what is needed, and then finding the right resources or person to actually plug into that piece of the business that's necessary. An approach that is really valuable is if the business has had like long-standing employees, like long, strong, employees that have had like a good tenure, you can leverage them. You can actually leverage them to when you're putting an offer together as part of your closing, creating an opportunity for those long-standing employees to become your partners. So once you're compensating them in a way that allows them ownership, now the business is going to thrive. And that was interesting. And then if you're looking for businesses that have been around for quite some time and maybe they don't have any social media presence, right away, you can already add value by doing things like having a podcast or, using your social media platform. So I really got a lot out of the time spent this past weekend. And for those of us who wholesale, there's something called consulting for equity. So when you're consulting for equity, not that a lot of people leverage this on the wholesale side, but it's very similar in that you're providing that like consulting service. And you're not necessarily an employee or you're working within the business, but you get compensated for a part of the equity of the business because of the services rendered. So it was interesting. I really, really, really liked it. So let's see. That's amazing. Super disappointed when events are obvious sales funnels. Yeah. Not to say that this wasn't somewhat of a sales funnel, right? Because they actually do have their own mentorship called Protege. And I signed up. I signed up for Protege. I've been sold, but I took the time to ask a lot of the proteges that were there, asking them like, how did it go? Like, what was your onboarding like? They actually are really, really specific about the support that they give you, and they give you like a 90-day plan. So in the 90-day plan, you're supposed to do very specific actions almost on a daily basis. But because I'm still orienting myself for being back, lack of sleep and all that, I plan on getting started this weekend when I have more bandwidth. So there you go. So questions here. I got John Hoffman asking, what markets are you in? I know you said Florida and Arizona. Well, let's see if I can share with you. Let's see here. I'm learning how to use StreamYard because it was normally something that Caroline does for us. So I haven't had to do it. Okay, I'm doing what it says to do, but apparently it's not working. Present. Let's see here. Share screen. Okay. What I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to show you how to go to my link tree. And on my link tree, which can be found on my Instagram, you'll actually you can go and get to our buy box by doing that. So let me see if I can get back to StreamYard. And okay, so in my link tree, hopefully you can see this. You have this is my Instagram. By the way, I'm at 4,018 followers, which is great because my goal was to get to 5,000 this year. So it was crazy that I got 1,000 in 2 months. Crazy. So thank you for all the love and support. But on here, you see the link tree. And then once I click on that, you'll see that here's all the nifty stuff that I provide for free. And then the entry fee calculator. The entry fee calculator will give you where our markets are on the left-hand side. So if you are looking to sell us something creatively on the left-hand side, or even cash, to be honest with you, you just go to the deal dispo and send us what you got. So this is our buy box. We can also help sell your deals to hedge funds. So if you want to know what hedge funds are looking for, at the bottom left, these are the states they're in, inclusive of Alabama, and then what those requirements are. So if you got something, come on through. Hopefully that was helpful. And there you have it. So let's see, stop sharing my screen. Thank you, John, for asking that question. It says, what is the outreach like initiating interaction? What are some methods of building rapport? Well, what we were taught during the presentation this past weekend, it's just like real estate. You go and you call them because most likely their business phone numbers should be listed, or you also send attractive direct mail, something unique, something that's going to help like make them stop and read. Maybe look something super official. Maybe it looks like something that's like out of this world sort of. I was almost thinking like Lisa Frank, for those of you who are older, because I grew up in the 90s and Lisa Frank had like these pretty colors, stickers and things like that. Like be as creative as you can, like stand out as much as you can when you send out. So that's step one, like get their attention. Step two is, like anything, it's not about you, it's about them. So as they say, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth so that you focus on listening. So one of the things that you would do is just kind of get a better understanding of what is it that they want, and like what are their hopes, their dreams, what are their problems. Some of the things that you would do as well is say, if well, not necessarily the seller, but you could ask the seller, but like there were some of their long tenured employees, like if you could change anything about the company, what would you change? And that is a great approach to, one, building rapport with employees, and also like incorporating their ideas. So when you do that, like you're actually showing them you care. And then I used to say, I say it now because I've had a corporate experience for a long time, is when people give you ideas and you can't actually do it, you have to give them the why. Like, oh, it's too expensive. It's a great idea. We're going to leave it in our idea list when we get to a point that we can actually do it. In the meantime, that's why. Or if it's yes, then you have to say when's the timeline when you're going to implement? Because employees, by and large, in my experience, if you give them a yes and then you string them along, then they're really not going to respect you as much. So if that helps, I hope so. Okay, what is the best way to find hedge funds to sell to? So for us, Blockchain Slim, we work closely with previous relationships that Caroline has had while she used to disposition. We also have really great relationships with folks like Matthew Potter, who has agreed to be on the podcast next week, by the way. Matthew Potter has really close relationship with hedge funds. So sometimes it's about like just figuring out who is their main point of contact that may already exist. Otherwise, honestly, it's time to Google. Like hedge fund information is public information. So Google is your best friend. You can start calling and start building rapport. So there you go, Mr. Blockchain Slim. Great seeing you too, Matt Rogers. It was an awesome weekend for sure, 100%. People were jumping off a plane, like they went parachuting. I don't see a good reason to jump off a perfectly good plane. So, all right, forward thinking, Josh. When holding a subject to deal, what have you discovered is the best way for you to structure the home insurance? Well, when you're holding a subject to deal, you are now the owner of that property. So, what you're supposed to do, and I'm actually working with an agent here in Arizona who happens to be one of our best friends. Um, One of the things that makes us nervous as investors is calling on behalf of the seller, right? Because we feel really nervous to, like, you know, move things along, and maybe somebody will, tell the mortgage, and the mortgage company will get a hold of that, and all of a sudden we're like scared. So what I've done is worked with local insurance companies and having them concierge it. So honestly, it's no different from when you buy a property today and you have to put insurance on it. The only thing about getting insurance for your property that's subject to, and by the way, it's either subject to deed transfer or subject to agreement for sale. So there's two different types of subject tos. If you're ever talking to a title company, subject tos to them are usually agreement for sales. And so I've always been very clear to title companies when I'm doing subject to, I'm talking about actual deed transfer. But yeah, I just get an insurance company involved. I let them know, like, hey, I'm buying this subject to the existing mortgage. So the mortgage that's existing, they're named on that insurance. The seller is also added as additionally insured. There's a document within sub 2, the mentorship, a template that we have that says if they ever get any proceeds, if the seller ever gets any proceeds, they're actually supposed to forward those proceeds on us as the new owners. And I just let my insurance company rep take care of it, because when it comes from them versus me, one, is less nerve-wracking, but two, they understand the language of what they need to say when you're replacing home insurance. So hopefully that helps your question. Forward thinking, Josh. You're welcome, John. I remember Lisa Frank stickers. They are super colorful. See, what are a couple of ways to structure a deal when buying businesses that's easy to get started with? I don't know that answer. That's what I'm exploring right now. So I found an opportunity. Actually, while I was in the conference, I was like, what? It's that easy? I could find a property, or here we go. I will do that a lot. I say property instead of business, but I was on Biz Buy Sell. I saw, I was like, there's actually a filter in Biz Buy Sell where a seller would be interested in seller financing, which is the same as MLS. Now, in my opinion, and I believe it's probably going to be the same in business, when you have a seller who's open to seller financing, they tend to be savvier than your average seller. So they're probably going to ask for terms that are not oriented to cash flow on the real estate side. Now, on the business side, I'm not quite sure. So this opportunity that presented itself, the seller is open to seller financing. It is cash flowing. I have some questions about the numbers because the profit numbers don't make sense to me. But my next step is I have to sign an NDA. And then after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that opportunity over to the team in Protege, the mentorship that's ran by Carl Allen. And I'm going to have them kind of walk me through. But again, my intention is to be an owner investor. So one of the things I saw was that they had 4 full-time employees and 1 part-time employee. So if they have 4 full-time employees, and 2 of them actually have been pretty long-standing, I want to understand, like, are they interested in being a partner? If so, how can we structure so that, I don't need to take all the money, right? Like, how do we partner up so that they're taking a chunk of the responsibility of the care? And if anybody tells you, yeah, you just take a business on real quick and then you don't have to do anything, that's completely inaccurate. When we spoke to, even as an owner investor, when we talked to Carl and Abraham, they're like, yeah, you still have, besides doing your due diligence, and your due diligence period is a lot longer than in real estate. You're like taking like at least 45 days, maybe. Part of that is also making sure you have a plan. Like every time you take over a business, you need to have a business plan. You have to understand what are your next steps. I think of it similar in real estate when you always have an exit strategy. Your business plan should include what is your long-term exit? What is your plan with this business? Like you should always start with the end in mind. By the way, I see a thumbs up there. I think we have one like. Hopefully this is adding value. If it is, would love if you guys could hit that like button. That would be great. But thanks for being here with us. Sue, I hope that answered your question. All right, I got a big one from John. When buying a business, were they teaching creative ways to purchase business? For example, using terms that create a financing a home. Also, is there a dollar percentage range to stay in? Yes, they were. They were teaching all of that. They were saying there's a term that Carl uses called annuity. And the reason he calls it annuity is because there was a fella who he was buying a property from that was retiring. And they're like, one of the other things that we were taught was that when you're a business owner, you tend to not have a retirement plan. Your business is your retirement plan. So when you're presenting a creative finance offer, and it actually works with the lack of retirement plan, because then you can work to pay them on a monthly basis. And that is their retirement. So not only are they mitigating capital gains as part of selling their business, just like in real estate, but they're stretching it out in a way that they benefit as somebody who now you've set up an annuity, right? Like if you guys, I don't know a whole lot about stocks, but annuity plans in I believe it's stocks, you get paid on a monthly basis or things like that. So they're more longer standing. So hopefully that answers your question. Oh no, it also, is there a dollar percentage range to stay in? So firstly, yes, you want to go after those property or those businesses that are making between $1 million and $5 million. The reason you want to be in that range is because if you can 2x or 3x that fairly quickly with just some tweaks to the business, then you're in like a really ripe building number. There's hedge funds that also buy businesses, and other businesses buy businesses, right? And when you're in that 5 million or less, 1 to 5 million range, those are businesses that are running in the true sense of a small business framework. So they kind of are below the radar, or if you want to say it a different way, they're more like a mom and pop business. So now you want to be clear about the kind of business you want. For example, I've been in food service all of my adult life and before that. Like my family in Colombia actually has a restaurant that we've owned since the 70s. And so food service is tied into our blood quite a bit. And if you look at restaurant business here in the United States, they're making pennies on the dollar. And I'm not even exaggerating, like 3 pennies to 6 pennies on the dollar. And so if you're ever thinking about owning a restaurant, know that is like the statistic. So for me, I'm not interested in running restaurants, because unless they're like super exclusive, and I don't know, even that takes a lot of investment. So if you're going to get into food service, know now that is really tough. Somebody like Abraham, what he does is like he includes the food service component and the entertainment component. He owns businesses called like this is just one of the businesses he owns, but Bury the Hatch. Bury the Hatch is a bar that you actually throw axes, and it's an axe throwing bar. So very fun, very lucrative, but there's an additional revenue component to it, right? Think of like Dave & Buster's. They don't just sell food and alcohol. They have all those video games they also make extra margins from. And what I also found out is that, like, let's say you have like a restaurant that can have a space for that kind of entertainment. You can actually have those outside companies bring those types of entertainment into a business, and they provision it. So like they provide it, and you split the proceeds made on those games, like arcade games or whatever they are. So, and then upfront money for the owners of the business. Yep, John. So that goes into very much like real estate. And in fact, the cash flow that the business has can pay for the upfront money that the seller is looking for. So you can get super creative. All right. So what do we have here? I didn't realize how much I depended on Caroline too. I feel like I'm talking a lot because I obviously am, being solo podcast gal today. Hopefully you guys send Caroline some love on her Instagram. Again, she's under the weather. I swear, every time we have a big event, this girl gets sick. That's how many babies she's kissing and hands she's shaking, because she's trying to make sure everyone gets to know her, because who wouldn't want to know Caroline? She's amazing. But let's see. Josh is saying, I'm going to finally pull the trigger around sub 2 on my next deal. Good for you. Let me know if you need a buyer. So that's awesome. Let's see. John Hoffman, with getting home insurance, we're talking about the insurance company dealing with the escrow company. No. We're talking about the insurance company dealing with the mortgage company. So part of what my best friend, like my family best friend, does is, like, he does this with anybody who goes and calls him and needs home insurance. He'll call and he'll call the existing home insurance. He'll say, we're replacing the existing home insurance, because I think you have like 60 days, if I'm not wrong, between buying the property and getting new insurance. So you have like a window to make that change. And so when you do that, he can actually call the existing insurance, change over the insurance with the new policy he has, and then he'll contact the mortgage company to let them know, hey, here's the new policy. The other one has been taken down. So it's that concierge service. Now, imagine we're not doing sub 2. I just buy a brand new house. I need to get home insurance. It used to have insurance from the old seller, the old owner. He does that. It's just normal insurance concierge service. So a good full service insurance company will call the old insurance company, let them know they've been replaced, and they'll call the mortgage company and replace the existing policy with the new one. That is the typical good home insurance service that an insurance company will do. So hopefully that helps provide some clarity. All right. John Hoffman, what about the range? Okay, John's the only one asking questions. What other questions do you guys have? Let's see. What about the range for the upfront money the owner may want to sell the business? What about it? So I think you're asking, like, hey, how can you afford it? How can you come around to it? So just like anything, even in real estate, you can get creative. So let's say it's a really amazing opportunity. You have experience in that business. You're like, damn, I only need $50K. I can't cover it with the cash flow. I think I need a funding partner. You can get a funding partner and negotiate with them what that interest could look like. Same thing even with a real estate deal. You know, you might need 30, 40, 50 grand to go buy a house, and you can afford to pay them like an interest only. Maybe there's a level of equity you can afford as well. So that is what you would do. You would negotiate that with someone who is willing to lend you money. So there you go. Ah, Sabina, I miss you. She sounds so good every time she talks to you. Have you ever heard Sabina? It's a sexy Sabina accent. I love Sabina, just FYI. She's an amazing Sub 2 student. Hi, Dustin Kircher. Thank you, John. He says he loves our podcast. Awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate you saying that. What percentage range should you stay in? I'm assuming if you have to get funding from someone. I always tell people go make the math make sense. So the free REI calculator that I provide to you guys, like I don't care what an assignment fee is. It could be 20 grand. It could be 50 grand. So long as the math makes sense to me to go and borrow that money, give that money to somebody or give that money to the seller and then secure it with real estate. My goal is always double-digit returns for anybody who has private money to lend to me. And so I'm usually looking for around 10% interest-only return for my private money lenders. In business, it could look different. So again, it's all about cash flow and what you believe is what juice is worth the squeeze if you have to have a private money lender help you. But let's imagine you need 50K. You can't use cash flow. It's cash flowing 20K a month. Okay. Well, maybe you pay back that 50K with 10K a month and you give them 20K. Right. So that's 7 months of repayment with a 20K cash flow in the business, if that makes sense. So Marlene, I'm new and learning. Well, wonderful. Ask your questions, Marlene. That's why we do this podcast. We want as many people coming to this podcast and asking their questions because a lot of you're amazing. I love you. Trust me. But with so many folks asking for mine and Caroline's time, we're like, we need a podcast so that we can answer all of these questions in a more public forum. And that way we can serve a lot more of you all at once instead of having one-on-ones. So there we go. Joel said he's cooking, but he's listening. Well, good. That's awesome. Sue, you and Caroline are doing a great job with this podcast. I appreciate it. One thing that Pace told us is that YouTube cares whether or not you're consistent. And so we were like, she said, do you think we should just do it next week? And I was like, no, I'll go solo, even if we only do it for a half hour. YouTube really loves long formats, but more than that, they love consistency. So if we're always going to be on at 4 p.m. every Wednesday, the algorithm loves it. Pretend like this is cable TV. Cable TV likes when they know what to put on the TV guide. All right. How do you go about funding for a sub-2 or seller finance deal? And is 25 to 40% down too much? It's for a deal I need underwriting for. Thanks. Well, Joel, do you want to underwrite the deal? Are you free? I can send you a link in the chat. You said you were cooking. So let me know if you're available. If you are, we'll have you on. We'll use the underwriting calculator. Y'all will have to forgive me because I don't know how to use all the buttons on StreamYard yet. I didn't actually, it's pretty user-friendly, but I don't have any prior knowledge. Caroline normally runs it. So, oh, Joel said he's available. All right, Joel. There's going to be a link in the chat. All done cooking. Oh, you have to tell me what you cooked. I'm a big carnivore gal now because it's really good for my gut. So I eat a lot of steaks. Curious what you made. But yeah, let's talk about your 25 to 40% down too much. My instinct says yes. I don't like to pay more than 10% because I'm an investor. So let's run the math for you. All right. So let's see here. John has a question while we wait for Joel. I don't see Joel. John Huffman. Sorry, let's say you're buying a business and you're going to want upfront buyout money. Is there a range you would stay in the buyout and rest would be paid out in terms? Yeah, you could do that. I don't know what range because there's so many variabilities, like how profitable are they, what their cash flow looks like. Do they have a season comparable, during this time of year they're good, during a different time of year they're not so good. SBA loans is also something you can definitely leverage as buying a business. SBA loans love a business that's under 5 million, I believe. So, oh, it looks like we got Joel in the studio. Hey, so let's hear Adam. Hi, Joel. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I heard you doing carnivore.
I kind of. It's a slight version.
Kind
I
of.
think I'm doing mostly gluten-free right now, but
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go a little bit more hardcore. I've done it before when I'm a lot more hardcore, but I don't know why I can't seem to learn my lesson.
It's tough. Yeah. Getting in a lot of water, the magnesium, the minerals, the selenium. I'm
Yep.
actually eating. See, this is filet mignon, and I go to the Chinese markets like Lily's. I know you know Lily's.
It's at my house.
And,
Like it's a mile from my house.
yeah, and they sell filet mignon for $11.99 a pound there. So if you ever want to go, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
wow. I did
it's
not know
cheaper.
that.
Yeah, that's what
Interesting.
I'm doing, carnivore.
Super. Good for you. Let me see if I can figure out how to present with both of us on.
Yes.
And okay, so first of all, let's get something straight. You don't have to share your. Okay, I'm going to be off the StreamYard for a minute so I could be in the spreadsheet, but you do not have to
Yeah.
give us the address. There's some numbers that you're probably going to have to know. I was doing this with somebody else on a deal earlier, so I use it all the time, and then I download it. But
Now the deal, I have it on my phone. Is it possible I could like toggle between?
yeah, you should be able to toggle.
Yeah. Okay.
There's some
Let's see.
numbers that will be important for us to know. Like,
Right.
do you know what the rent would be for the property?
That's different because so basically this place used to be a church and they converted it it was a very small church into a 7-unit multifamily.
Mm.
Yeah, the yearly taxes are really low. So the thing is, and I know the person, it's to a friend of mine. I just don't know how to underwrite, that whole process. So getting the funding, we worked down basically what she wanted. She's willing to work with me, whatever, but I just want to make sure that I get the numbers right. But
So when somebody wants like 40% down,
yeah,
that usually means you're probably looking at something more like the Morby method. Have you heard of the Morby method?
yes, and that's a very sophisticated, different. There's loopholes and different ways that I noticed that you could use the Morby method, which is I think Pace said when they want a high down payment, use the Morby method because it always works. So
It doesn't always work. I want to
no,
clarify that. No, but normally, if you're going to use a Morby method, it has to make sense to cash flow. So I literally just helped somebody underwrite one just recently, and we did a 50% loan to value, meaning, hey, I'm going to go get a normal. So for those who don't know what a Morby method is, I actually did one last year, and I think I was the first one to do a Morby method that wasn't a good friend of mine, because I think Logan Manzanares in sub 2 also did one. He was doing it with like his best friend. So this is me and a stranger doing Morby method. And actually it won the most creative deal for January, and I won $5,000. Woohoo! So anyway, for the Morby method, it really is just 2 transactions. The first transaction is a normal transaction. You got to bring 20, 40, 50% down payment, depending on what makes sense for numbers. And when you bring that down payment, it could either be from you or it could be from a transaction lender. Okay. So that down payment helps you qualify for the loan, which tends to be more like a DSCR loan, which means debt service coverage ratio. In other words, a commercial loan. Okay. So how is the asset going to perform? Will it cover the mortgage, and the ratio is right now it's probably around 1.25 or higher. Meaning, if it's $1,000 mortgage, then they expect that you're getting at least $1,250 back in rents, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's a 1.25 debt coverage ratio, debt coverage service ratio. So that is what DSCR stands for. So if I go and buy this church, and let's say the best way to make the numbers work is that I have to have it have a low LTV of 60-40 because she's looking for 40% down. Number one with Morby methods is that it has to appraise. So whatever that number is, the property you're buying has to appraise at that number. That's number one. And then number two, let's say it's 60% and they want, or 60%, or actually in this scenario, because she wants 40% down, you could actually do a 40% loan to value, right? So I'm just throwing numbers out here, but let's say it's 500,000. Okay, what's 40% of 500,000? 7 units is probably higher than that. What is the purchase price on this?
It's $2 million.
Okay, I was way off. 2 million. How many? What is it? 3 twos? You there, Joel? I think he changed the screen. He's looking for.
Yeah, I'm here. You hear me?
I can see you now. You probably toggle.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. 2 million. What's the 7 units? What are they? Are they
They're
2s?
So I would have to toggle. Can I send it to you possibly, or so you could see? That way I don't have to toggle. I don't know if that's gonna work, but
so you don't know if it's 2 bedroom, 2 bath off top, like off your top of your head?
I know one of them's a 3 bedroom. There's 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, and I think there's one that's a 1 bedroom.
Okay, just off the top of my head, right? When you think about properties like 3 twos and 2 twos, they're about like 200 to 300,000, right? So if you have 7 of these, you're already kind of on the higher side. So if you have 7 properties, to get to 2 million, it seems high priced. So hopefully your terms are really good. Do you feel like you're going to appraise at 2 million?
I have a bad feeling, yeah. And I actually know her. I went to a underwriting event with one of a mentor of mine who kind of and he introduced me to her, and then that's where I met her. But 2 million, I'm just not sure if that's quite. I think it's a little over, being with what the market is. I did look at some comps, and then she provided some comps, but hers was a little over than those that she showed, especially where the area, which is near Central Phoenix.
Okay, and it's an older conversion.
It's an older conversion, yeah. It's nice, she says it cash flows. She assured 100% this cash flows.
Well, if it cash flows for her, doesn't mean it'll cash flow for you, especially if you have to go get a loan. But
right,
let's say you can give her 40% down through this loan. Is she expecting payments beyond that?
She's expecting we worked down to a 25% down at a 3% interest, but she wants it all paid off in 5 years. Yeah, that's really so that's the issue is I don't know if that could happen, at that time frame. And especially where the market's going, someone told me, you don't know where this market's going. Things could drop, you lose. She could take the property back. I mean,
yeah,
just don't know. I just don't want to fall into that trap, get the money, and then, because at first I was going to get the money from my mom.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'm not going to put her in that position.
Are all the units like ready to go and updated, or is it a value add?
It is. It's ready to go. The rents, she said the rents are a little lower than usual.
Mm-hmm.
And there's 2 units that are fully furnished. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why they're priced a little higher.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, I have the sheet on another page here. But if I toggle, it just takes me off of the video here.
Got
But
it. Okay. So we can meet in private after this to kind of go over the numbers. I will
okay,
say with multifamily, there's a couple of factors you need to be aware of. What do they pay? Like who pays for water? Who pays for electricity? What are the landscaping cost? What is their what have they been reserving for capex? So have they been reserving money to replace air conditioning, to replace water heaters? How does the plumbing look? Have they scoped it? Because with renters, they tend to throw shit that shouldn't be thrown, in the plumbing.
right.
Uh, are there any fixed costs that you need to be aware of, like Wi-Fi? Like, what are some of those additional costs? So, multifamily um, is a little bit more complicated in terms of underwriting, but at the end of the day, you're just trying to figure out, does it cash flow, and do you have enough information as part of your due diligence to know whether that is true or not. The thing with mom and pops multifamily, there's always a lot of opportunity. The con of it is that they're not really great at bookkeeping. So you're going to
Yeah,
have to really interrogate and see, okay, do you have all the elements you need to know that's the case? Just right off the bat, just Arizona real estate. I'm an agent here, and I'm like, okay, 2 million for, let's say, predominantly 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or 2-bedroom, 1-bath seems expensive for 7 of those. That's just, my perspective. Now, if you're going to overpay for something, I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but if you're going to overpay for it, then make sure there's no interest, and that you feel good that the pay down in 5 years is significant enough for you to be able to refinance the property. That does mean if it's a value added property or value added needed property, you have a game plan on what does reserves look like? How are you going to take care of turnovers? So reserves is money you're going to set aside so that as people leave and you turn over, you're fixing it up so that you can get those higher rents, right?
hmm
Maybe at the time you take over the property, the rents aren't where you need them to be. But, if you tell folks that they have to leave because your rents are going up higher, that's another way that you actually get folks to negotiate leaving the property, so you have opportunity to fix up the house. So, yeah, lots to think
wow,
about in multifamily. I've learned a lot recently. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna
yeah,
stick to single family for now. But if I do bring a multifamily along, I usually have one of the guys that I know who are really good at underwrite it for me. So
okay. So with that said, do you believe, since I'm like starting with this, that I should just start with homes and then work my way up to like a duplex, a fourplex, and then eventually multifamily?
um it depends, like what are your goals? Like does this align with your goals? Like do you have like
Yeah, yeah. My goals are to do just, multifamily. The people that I, like the guy Jeff, he's like a mentor to me. He develops and does big multifamily stuff. So he's the one that really introduced me to people. And if I need something, he's there. But it's very hard to get a hold of someone like that because they're so busy and
Mhm.
they're all over the country and they're building here and there, and their time is worth a lot. So I do want to fall into that area because I noticed, long term, it's something where, um, I just gravitate more towards, instead of the housing stuff. I do want to live in a house, that I do, and I do want to buy it seller financed.
Mm-hmm.
But that's one of my other goals. So I think that's why I asked, should I
Yeah, have a
learn those?
property in Buckeye if you want.
Yeah, that's a good area. It's a bit up and coming area, but what's that area? It's starts with a V or something.
Verando.
Verado. Yeah.
Verado. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is right near Verado.
Okay. Nice.
The subdivision this community is in was built in like the mid 2000s.
Okay.
So the house has a brand new HVAC. We've gotten inquiries to go see it this week, so we have about 3 or 4 showings this week, but we haven't sold it yet.
Okay.
But yeah, no, it's just a matter of being patient. When you talk about wraps, they usually take about 2 or 3 months to sell.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
just let me know. It's a cute 4-bedroom, 2-bath house, single family or single level, 2-car
Yeah.
garage. It was very well taken care of. So happy to walk you through if that's something of interest to you. But as far as your multifamily, don't let me crush your dreams. Multifamily for me was newer and did not necessarily align with my goals initially. I am exploring more multifamily now that I want more doors, right? So I cut my teeth on single family. We bought 4 last year, and now I'm like 4 to keep, right? Because we do fixed and flip 8, but we kept 4. And so now it's like, how do I ramp up getting more doors? But it sounds to me, as long as you're structuring that payment back to the seller in a way that you're going to cash flow and you understand all the numbers involved with it, I don't see why you couldn't make it work. And especially for multifamily investors like sellers, you just show them the numbers, like you show them the data. They're investors, so they're a little bit different than your typical single family seller. That's actually a pro for you to say, hey, here's the number that's going to make it work. Here's what I'm going to have to pay every month. And I need to hit this cash flowing number because I have to be able to pay my, your mom, for example, for that private money, and be able to cash flow on the property. But things that people tend to forget, even on a single family property, is, are you going to put reserves on the side to start? Be ready in case you have, like, I literally had 2 AC units on one property. I had both go kaput in a property in Houston. Now, I had good credit, so I was able to leverage my good credit to go get those 2 new ACs that cost 10 grand. And that was after I vehemently negotiated with like 4 different AC companies in Houston. And then they had a 0% financing program. So I was like, I'll take it, because I had not built in reserves. I thought I was going to have to like dig into my HELOC and pay for this. But I was cash flowing enough that I've paid for half of it now, and I'm just waiting for my reserves to build up again, and I'll pay the other half, and I won't pay any interest. Thank God. But those are things that come up, and I don't think we talk about it enough, to have reserves for when things like that happen.
Yeah, that's another thing that I think about a lot, because if I put everything into this, and get the loan, and I don't have anything to fall back on, then that's just another, even if I could get everything, I just don't want to, put myself in that position, be like, great, this was your first one.
Well, that's why you have to ask that seller, do
Yeah.
they have money in reserves, and is it a part of the sale? So because technically you're kind of buying a business with multifamily. So you ask them, what does your reserves look like? Because I would be taking over your reserves as well. Maybe she's built up 10, 20, 30 grand. I don't know. And maybe that'll help you with the transition. So this is where you get to dig in deeper to the data.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, Joel, I can get you in contact with my multifamily underwriter, who would probably do a much quicker and better job than me. But those are some of the things that you would want to you want to keep top of mind.
Gotcha. Thank you. I really appreciate it, Ingrid.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right. So that was Joel. Thanks for coming on board. Yes, Marlene, we have, if you go and look at our past lives on our YouTube channels, we did record live calls with agents. So give you lots of tips there in case you do agent outreach. So for sure, check it out. Thanks for the love, Jew. I appreciate that. Let's see. John asked, do you like using property management companies? I have a short-term rental partner. So technically that's a property manager. And I love it. Why? Because I don't have to worry about anything Airbnb related, if that helps. But for my other long-term rentals, I manage them. So not to say you have to figure out what is worth your time. So if you don't want to be collecting rent, get a property management company. I use a tool called Avail. It's a web-based portal, and you can actually find a link in my link tree information. Let's see if we can share it. So if you sign up for it, you can, let's see here, remove, present, add to stream. Okay, let's see here. On my link tree, you can see that there's this link called Avail. And so when you sign up, you get $50 and I get $50. And that Avail link is where I do all my property management through. So I upload all my leases there. I have a midterm rental in Houston that used to be an Airbnb, but now is a midterm. And I put all my leases there and we cycle through them there. And then it collects their rents through there. So it sends them an email and puts them on blast and say, hey, rent's due, time to pay up. So it's very, very, very helpful. All right. Looks like we are at top of the hour. Don't see a lot of questions. Let's see. Did the mastermind talk about JVing on buying businesses? What skill sets that are compatible with partners? Yes, they did. They talked about, visionary versus integrator. If you're going to buy a business that's not in your realm of expertise, you absolutely should partner up with somebody who's more aligned. But before you do any of that, kind of like what I was asking Joel, like, what's your goals? Is it aligned with your goals? And then you have to go and find somebody who kind of has that complementary goal requirement that you do. And then, skill sets, right? So if you want to be an owner investor, you want to make sure that then you get a partner that's going to be more, they'll be responsible for the operations. They don't necessarily need to be in the business, but they would be accountable for the operations of the business, for example. Hey, Canches comadre. She says, hola friends, it's Cece. Right on. Lady, have you had to furnish your MTR while being remote? If so, how did you manage to do it? So there's a handyman that I have in Houston. So when I first furnished the Airbnb in Houston, I had a partner at the time and he was there with his family actually, and they put a lot of the furniture together. And then I ended up having to send my husband because they needed help. And then the Airbnb we had here, we actually hired a designer to put it all together. So even though I was literally in an hour away from it, I did not do it. So lady, I would say if you're looking to do that, make sure whoever's helping you design or whoever there's people who actually do this for a living. There's a guy named Tyler Townsley in Sub 2 with us, and his girlfriend, Kaylin, literally has made a career of building furniture. There's also apps like Thumbtack, TaskRabbit. I think what's really difficult is if you have like lots of of product coming to the property. So that would be something you would have to figure out to coordinate, like finding a good drop-off place for all those things, or maybe putting a number pad on the garage, or like hiring a neighbor, like, hey, every time you see boxes, please put them in the house. But at that point, you would want to have like your ring bell up, or whatever you're using to monitor your front door. And like pay a neighborhood kid to put the stuff back in your house, because it's all being recorded. So I would say coordinate to pay somebody to bring in the boxes, probably the Amazon boxes, into the house, and then coordinate somebody to go there and actually build it for you. I don't think it's worth your time. That's just my opinion. All right. Thank you. That is the logistics I'm trying to figure out. You're welcome, lady. Well, we are past the hour. I'm not seeing any new questions. Once again, super grateful for all of you for making it onto our podcast. If you found value in this, please make sure to hit the thumbs up below my face, wherever it is. If you are looking to join an investor-friendly brokerage, come join me at Real Brokerage. We meet every Tuesday, and we go over tactics and strategies on how to make you more money than just being a traditional agent. Although being a traditional agent is just as amazing. Also, we're here every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Arizona time when we are feeling well. I know we were one Caroline short today. I'm sure she missed you all. We love her. Send her some love on Instagram. Give her a message. Let her know she was missed and that you hope she feels well. And again, thank you for being here. Super happy that I had an audience. And so thanks for being here. If you didn't get your question answered, please bring your question next week, and we'll see you then. We're supposed to have Matthew Potter, Mr. King of Short Sales, because whether we like it or not, short sales are back. So we're going to talk to him a little bit about what that takes to navigate. All right. Thank you so much. Have a great Wednesday.